The desert wind blew across the strange world, carrying with it the sound of broken ruins and the whispers of an ancient people. A lone human walked across the sand, his boots sinking with every step, his face marked with scars of past battles. His eyes were tired but sharp, always searching, always watching. He was not here by chance. He had come to find something, or someone, though he himself did not yet know who. The city before him was not alive, yet not completely dead either. Tall spires leaned against the sky like broken teeth, their stone walls cracked and burned. Shadows moved in the distance, not human shadows, but thin and fast, as if watching him from every corner. Still, he kept walking forward, his courage his only weapon. From the corner of his eye, he noticed her, a cloaked figure, standing near a ruined archway, silent, unmoving. The human slowed his steps, sensing the weight of her gaze. Her cloak covered her from head to toe, but he could see strange shapes moving beneath the fabric, as if her body was not like his. He did not flinch, he only gave a calm nod. "Are you from this place?" he asked, his voice low but steady. She did not answer, not at first. Instead, the wind carried her voice like an echo. "Why are you here, human?" The human stopped, choosing his words carefully. "I am searching," he said, "but I do not know yet what I will find." The cloaked figure tilted her head, almost curious, almost suspicious. Her voice was sharp, yet soft. "Then perhaps you will only find regret." He could have turned back, but instead he stepped closer. The sand crunched beneath his boots, the sound loud in the quiet ruins. "I do not fear regret," he said. "I have lived with it already." Her head lowered, as if she were studying him. Around them, other aliens peeked from behind broken walls, their faces twisted with mockery. One of them laughed, pointing at her. "Why hide, broken one? Show him your flaws. Let him see what you really are." The human looked at the others, then at her. He saw her tense, her hands shaking beneath the cloak. Her silence was heavy, filled with shame and anger. The human stepped in front of her, surprising everyone. His scarred face turned toward the mocking voices. "I have seen worse than scars," he said firmly. "They are not weakness, they are survival." The crowd went silent, confused by his words. The cloaked alien gasped softly, her chest rising and falling as if something deep inside her was breaking free. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever stood at her side. Her heart trembled, caught between fear and hope. She whispered, almost to herself, Why do you not turn away?" The human looked at her cloak, at the hidden shapes that frightened her so much. He said simply, "Because scars tell stories, and flaws are part of those stories." His voice was calm, steady, without judgment. The words sank into her like light into dark water. The mocking aliens faded back into the ruins, muttering and laughing, but weaker than before. The cloaked figure stood frozen, her breath shaking. No one had ever spoken those words to her. No one had ever told her that flaws could be something more than shame. For a moment, she wanted to believe him. The silence stretched long, filled only by the sound of the desert wind. Finally, she spoke again, her voice lower now, almost fragile. "You do not know what I am." The human gave the faintest smile, tired but kind. "Then show me," he said. "I will not run." She took a step back, her hands clutching the cloak tighter. Her voice trembled. "If you see me, you may regret it forever." But his eyes did not waver. His scars shone in the light like proof of his words. "I have lived through enough regret," he whispered. "One more will not break me." Something inside her shifted. A wall she had built for years began to crack. The human's presence was strange, dangerous, yet comforting. He was a warrior, scarred and weary, yet unafraid of the darkness around him. She did not know why, but she felt her heart move toward him. And for the first time in many years, she thought maybe, just maybe, someone could see her true form and not turn away. The desert grew colder, the sky above filled with strange clouds. Danger lingered at the edges of the ruins, shadows moving like predators. But in that moment, between the scarred human and the cloaked alien, a spark was lit. A spark that would grow into something far greater than either of them expected. The human followed her deeper into the ruins. The city stretched out like the skeleton of a fallen giant. Every wall was cracked, every tower broken, but hidden pathways still wound between the stones. The cloaked alien moved silently, her steps light and careful, always keeping distance from him. The human did not push, he only walked, letting her lead, knowing that trust was fragile and could not be forced. The air grew colder as they passed into the heart of the ruins. Strange carvings glowed faintly on the walls, symbols of a people long forgotten. The human traced one of the marks with his hand, feeling a faint warmth beneath the stone. "These are old," he said, his voice quiet, "older than my world." She did not answer at first, only pulling her cloak tighter. Finally, her voice came like a whisper. "They are not just old, they are cursed." Her words echoed against the hollow streets. The shadows seemed to press closer. The human frowned but did not step away. "Curses are only words, unless we believe them," he said. Her steps stopped. She turned her hidden face toward him. "You think you are brave," she said sharply, "but you do not understand what I carry." He looked at her cloak, at the trembling that betrayed her fear. "Then help me understand," he said simply. Her chest rose and fell. Her voice broke as she spoke. "My people once held power, enough to light the skies, enough to break worlds." She paused, her hands clenching tight at the fabric of her cloak. "But they hated me because I was born wrong, because my body carries the mark of their downfall." The human listened without moving, without judgment. His scars caught the light as he spoke. "I too was marked, not by birth but by battle." He lifted his sleeve, showing a twisted scar running down his arm. "Men call me broken, unworthy, but I kept fighting." Her breath caught, her hands shook harder. "If you do not know what I become," she whispered. He stepped closer, his voice steady. "Then show me, because I will not run." Her heart thundered inside her chest, the fear she had carried for years clashing with something new. Hope, dangerous and unfamiliar, stirred in her blood. For a moment, she almost let go of the cloak, almost revealed what she truly was. But then, a sound echoed through the ruins, sharp and cruel. From the broken towers above, shadows moved. Figures stepped out, their eyes glowing, their laughter low and filled with hunger. They were not friends, not her people. They were scavengers who had haunted the ruins for years. The human's hand went to the blade at his side, his body tense and ready. One of the scavengers sneered. "So the broken one found a pet human." Another laughed, their teeth sharp and yellow. "Show him your face. Monster, show him the reason your people fell." The alien flinched, her body freezing, her breath sharp. The human stepped between them, his eyes hard. "She owes you nothing," he said, his voice strong. The scavengers growled, circling them like wolves. The alien's hands trembled under the cloak. She whispered, "If I reveal myself, you will turn away. You will fear me as they do." The human shook his head, scars shining in the dim light. "I do not turn away from what is real," he said. "Fear does not guide me. Truth does." Her eyes burned with emotion, hidden but fierce. The scavengers lunged closer, their weapons glinting in the half-light. The human raised his blade, ready to fight, but he knew the battle would be impossible without her. He looked at her, his voice low but powerful. "Trust me, show me who you are, and we will survive." The cloak trembled around her body. Energy pulsed faintly beneath the fabric like a heartbeat. Her fear screamed louder than the enemies before her, louder than the curses of her people. But his words cut through it like light through shadow. She was terrified, yet for the first time, she was not completely alone. She whispered, almost broken, "If you see me, you cannot turn back." He met her hidden eyes, his voice steady. "I never planned to." The scavengers howled and charged, their blades flashing. The human stood firm, his scars glowing like proof of his strength. Beside him, The cloaked alien trembled, torn between fear and courage. And in that moment, the ruins themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for her choice. The scavengers closed in, their footsteps heavy against the broken stones, their glowing eyes locked on the human and the cloaked alien, hungry for blood, hungry for fear. The air grew thick with danger. Every shadow seemed alive. The human tightened his grip on his blade, scars on his hand catching the pale light. But he did not look at the enemies first. He looked at her, the one who still trembled beneath her cloak. She could feel his eyes on her, steady, unafraid. No one had ever looked at her like that, without disgust, without fear. Her chest tightened, her breath short, as if the weight of years pressed down all at once. Memories of laughter, of cruel words, of being called cursed and broken filled her mind. Her people had chosen exile for her, casting her away as the cause of their downfall. And now, here was a human, a stranger, scarred and tired, telling her she was not weak. The scavengers hissed. One raised his jagged blade and shouted, "Show him your curse before we carve him apart." The alien's heart thudded in her chest, louder than the enemy cries. Her hands gripped the edges of her cloak, torn between terror and trust. "If I reveal myself," she whispered to the human, "I may lose you too." Her voice shook, as if she were already preparing for rejection. The human stepped closer, his voice low but strong. "You will not lose me," he said, "because nothing you show me will change the truth of who you are." She gasped, her eyes wide beneath the hood. "How can you say that when you don't even know?" she asked, almost broken. "Because I have lived with scars," he said, lifting his arm again to show the twisted mark. "I know what it means when others call you less, but I also know scars are not the end. They are the beginning of strength." The words struck her deeper than any weapon. For a moment, the scavengers and their blades seemed far away. It was only her and him, standing in the ruins, their voices the only sound. Her hands shook as she loosened the cloak, her heart racing faster than ever before. But then, at the last second, she froze, fear clawing back in her chest. The scavengers laughed, mocking. "She hides because she knows you will run. Human, you all run when you see the truth." The human turned his head slightly toward them, his voice sharp as steel. "I do not run," he said, "not from scars, not from truth, not from her." The alien's breath caught, her trembling slowed. Something inside her shifted again, like a chain breaking after centuries. The courage he carried was strange, human courage, fragile yet unbreakable. She realized then that his strength was not in power or weapons, but in the choice to accept pain and keep walking forward. And maybe, just maybe, she could make the same choice. The scavengers lunged forward, their blades flashing. The human raised his weapon, ready to fight, but his voice still reached her, steady and calm. "Trust me," he said. "Trust yourself, and we will stand together." Her heart pounded, her hands tore at the cloak. Light flickered beneath the fabric, faint but growing. The scavengers slowed, their mocking smiles fading as they saw the glow. They hissed in fear, stepping back. "No, not her, not the cursed one." The alien's voice was low, filled with pain and courage. "They called me cursed because they feared what I carried." She lifted her head, her hood slipping back slightly, revealing eyes that glowed like twin stars. The human did not flinch, he did not turn away. He only whispered, "I see you." Her cloak shook with the force of her rising energy, the ruins trembling as if the city itself felt her awakening. The scavengers shrieked, fear replacing their cruelty. The human stood firm, blade steady, body ready, but his heart focused on her. He knew this moment was not about the fight. It was about trust, about the choice she had to make. The air burned with silence, the scavengers circling but unsure. The alien stared at the human, his steady eyes meeting her burning ones. For the first time in her life, she felt that maybe she could show her true self and not be abandoned. Her cloak slipped lower, the glow brighter, her voice a whisper, "Do not leave me." His answer came without hesitation, calm and certain, "I will not." And in that moment, though the battle had not yet begun, something greater had already been won. The first bond of trust, fragile but unbreakable, forged between a scarred human and a flawed alien. A bond that would change the fate of them both, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The scavengers roared and charged, their weapons raised high, their voices echoing through the broken ruins. The human braced himself, lifting his blade, scars tightening across his arm as he prepared for the clash. But before the enemies reached them, the ground shook beneath their feet. A pulse of energy spread from the cloaked alien, faint at first, then rising like a storm. Her cloak rippled, light breaking through the seams like cracks in a shell. She gasped, torn between terror and courage, her voice trembling. "If I reveal myself, I cannot hide again." The human looked at her, unflinching, his voice calm in the storm. "Then do not hide," he said. "Show them, show me, who you are." Her hands trembled, gripping the edges of her cloak. Memories flashed, voices calling her cursed, eyes filled with hate, the loneliness of exile. Fear screamed inside her, louder than the scavengers, louder than the battle. But over it all came the human's voice, steady and warm. "I will not run," he whispered. "I will not leave you." The words struck deeper than any blade. Her cloak tore open, the fabric falling away like ashes in the wind. Light burst out, flooding the ruins, blinding the scavengers where they stood. The human narrowed his eyes but did not step back, his heart steady. Before him stood not the cloaked outcast, but something magnificent. Her skin shimmered with scales like crystal, each one reflecting the light of forgotten stars. Wings unfolded behind her, vast and glowing, etched with patterns older than time. Her eyes burned with a golden fire, fierce yet sorrowful. Power rippled through the air around her, bending the dust and stone as if the world itself obeyed her. The scavengers screamed in terror, stumbling back. "It's her, the cursed one, the end-bringer," they cried, their voices breaking with fear. Some dropped their weapons, others tried to flee into the shadows. But the human stood unmoving, his gaze fixed on her true form. For a moment, silence filled the ruins, heavy, waiting. The alien looked at him, her glowing eyes trembling with uncertainty. She whispered, almost broken, "Now you see me, will you turn away?" His answer came without pause, his voice low but certain. "You are not cursed. You are beautiful." Her breath caught, her wings shuddered with emotion. No one had ever spoken those words to her. No one had ever looked at her true form without fear. The scavengers, still trembling, hissed with rage. "Lies! She is destruction. She is ruin," they shouted, desperate to drown the human's words. But his voice cut sharper than their cries. "She is more than your fear," he said. "She is strength." The alien closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, fire burned brighter within. Her fear melted into something else, power, ancient and wild. She spread her wings wide, the ruins shaking as energy surged through her veins. A roar tore from her throat, not of pain, but of freedom. The scavengers stumbled, terror freezing them in place. The human tightened his grip on his blade, ready to fight beside her. But he knew this battle was no longer his to lead. It was hers, the moment she chose to stop hiding. Energy exploded from her body, a wave of light and force that shattered stone and turned shadows into dust. The scavengers were thrown to the ground, their cries swallowed by the roar of power. The human shielded his eyes, but did not move away. When the light dimmed, he lowered his hand and saw her standing tall, wings glowing against the storm-dark sky. She turned her gaze to him, fire still burning in her golden eyes. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice heavy with disbelief. He nodded, his face calm, though his heart raced. "I told you," he said, "do not run." Her chest rose and fell, the fear inside her replaced with something new. Not shame, not exile, but pride, fragile and fierce. For the first time, she felt the weight of her true self not as a curse, but as a gift. And it was because a human, scarred and weary, had chosen to see her not as a monster, but as something worthy. The scavengers lay scattered across the ruins, broken and silent. The storm in the sky began to fade, leaving a pale light over the world. The alien folded her wings slowly, her body still glowing with soft fire. The human stepped closer, his voice quiet. "You do not need to hide anymore." She looked at him, her voice trembling but strong. "Then perhaps I was never cursed," she said. "Perhaps I was only waiting for someone to believe." And in that moment, between the broken ruins and the rising dawn, the truth of her power was no longer a secret. It was a revelation, born from fear, forged by trust, and awakened by acceptance. The scavengers did not stop, even in their fear. Their hunger for blood and chaos pushed them forward, their broken weapons raised against the glowing alien. They shouted curses, their voices trembling, trying to convince themselves she was still weak, still cursed. But deep inside, they already knew the truth. She was no longer hiding, and that alone was enough to make them afraid. The human stood at her side, blade ready, his stance steady. He knew the battle was coming, but his eyes never left her. This was her moment, the choice she had made, the truth she had embraced. The scars on his body burned as if they understood her pain. He whispered softly, so only she could hear, "Let it out, do not hold back." Her wings stretched wider, their glow spilling across the ruins. The energy in her chest burned like a star. She lifted her hands, and the air around her began to shake. The stones of the broken city rose from the ground, floating like dust caught in a storm. Her voice rang out, not weak, not cursed, but strong. "You call me ruin," she cried, "but I am survival." With a single motion, light burst from her body. The scavengers screamed as the force threw them back, their weapons shattered like glass. Some tried to run, but the light wrapped around them like fire, driving them into the ground. The earth itself seemed to bend to her will, cracking beneath the weight of her unleashed power. The human shielded his face from the light, but his heart swelled with awe. He had fought many battles, seen many warriors, but nothing like this. Her power was not just destruction. It was beauty, raw and untamed. Every motion carried both fury and grace, like a storm dancing across the sky. The scavengers tried one last charge, their leader screaming louder than the others. But she lifted her wings and roared, a sound that shook the heavens. Energy poured from her like a river, striking the enemies with a wave of pure force. Their cries faded into silence as the light swallowed them, leaving only dust and echoes. The ruins stood trembling, stones falling, the air hot and heavy. Yet at the center of it all, she remained standing, her wings glowing, her body burning with power. The human lowered his blade, no longer needing to fight. He stepped closer, slowly, carefully, his voice soft. "You held back for so long," he said, "but you were never weak." She turned toward him, her golden eyes wet with something strange. Not anger, not fear, but release. Her voice broke as she spoke. "I feared what I was. I believed their lies." Her wings folded slightly, the fire dimming. "But you stayed." The human nodded, his face calm but filled with respect. "I stayed because I saw the truth before you did," he said. "You are not cursed, you are powerful." The silence that followed was not heavy like before. It was calm, almost peaceful, filled with the sound of wind carrying the dust away. The ruins seemed less broken now, lit by the glow of her wings. For the first time in centuries, her true self stood unchained. She looked at him, her voice soft. "Does my form not frighten you?" He shook his head, a faint smile on his scarred face. "I have seen monsters," he said, "and you are not one." Her heart trembled, the weight of his words heavier than the battle just fought. She stepped closer, the glow fading to a softer light. You fight with scars, she whispered, and I fight with what they call flaws. Her hand, clawed yet graceful, lifted slightly toward him, then froze in hesitation. The human reached out first, placing his scarred hand gently against hers. Two broken things, meeting not in fear, but in trust. The city lay quiet around them. The scavengers defeated, the shadows scattered. The battle was over, but something far greater had begun. Her power was no longer hidden, and his courage had proven unshakable. Together, they had faced fear and turned it into strength. She whispered one last time, her voice trembling but sure. With you, I am no longer cursed. The human answered, steady and kind. With you, I am no longer alone. And in the silence of the ruined city, lit by the last glow of her wings, the bond between them grew stronger, forged not in fear, but in acceptance. A bond that would shake not only the scavengers, but the galaxy itself. The ruins lay silent after the storm of battle. Dust drifted down from broken towers, settling on the cracked stones like ash. The scavengers were gone, scattered or destroyed, their cries fading into the distance. Only the human and the alien remained in the heart of the ancient city, standing side by side. Her wings glowed faintly, the fire within her dimming but not gone. The golden light reflected in the human's eyes as he lowered his blade. His scars burned with the memory of the fight, yet his heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, he was not fighting alone. She looked at him, her chest rising and falling, her voice trembling. You did not leave, even when you saw me, she whispered. He shook his head slowly, his expression calm. I told you, he said. I do not run. Her claws flexed nervously, her wings folding closer to her back. She had shown him everything, the very form that had made her people cast her out. The power they called cursed, the body they mocked, the fire they feared. And yet here he was, not with fear in his eyes, but with respect. Her throat tightened, words heavy with disbelief. They always told me I was the reason my people fell, that I was a monster. The human stepped closer, his voice steady. You are not the reason they fell, he said. You are the reason you survived. The words struck deep, breaking chains she had carried for centuries. Tears welled in her glowing eyes, her voice shaking. You speak as if I am more than my scars. The human lifted his arm, showing the twisted marks once more. Because I know scars, he said. They do not make us weak, they make us real. A silence followed, not heavy with fear, but filled with warmth. The alien lowered her head, her wings trembling as if her heart itself could not hold the weight. For the first time, she felt seen not as cursed, but as whole. Her hand rose slowly, hesitating, unsure if she should reach for him. The human moved first, placing his scarred hand over hers, firm and gentle. The touch sent a shiver through her, not of fear, but of something new, a connection, fragile yet undeniable. Her voice broke softly. Why do you trust me so easily? His answer was simple, steady, because you trusted me first. The ruins around them seemed less broken, lit by the faint glow of her wings. The air was still, yet filled with the quiet echo of something greater. For the first time in her long exile, she felt she was not standing alone against the galaxy. She had someone beside her, someone who had chosen her truth instead of her mask. The human looked out over the city, his voice thoughtful. This place was once filled with life, was it not? She nodded slowly, her eyes dark with memory. Yes, before they feared me, before they banished me. It was bright, filled with song and light. Her voice cracked. I thought I would never see it again. He turned back to her, his scars lit by the fading sun. Then let us rebuild it, he said, simple but strong. She gasped, her eyes wide. Rebuild with me? He nodded, steady, unshaken with you. Her chest tightened, a storm of emotions rising inside her. For so long, she had believed herself a curse, a shadow, a burden. Now, standing with him, she felt like something else entirely. A beginning, not an end. The bond forged between them was not only trust, but hope. Hope for her. Hope for him. Hope for the world that had forgotten her. She whispered softly, "Perhaps I was waiting all this time, waiting for someone who would not turn away." The human gave a faint smile, tired but kind. "Then your wait is over," he said. The ruins glowed faintly in the last light of day. Two figures stood at the heart of the fallen city, one scarred by war, the other scarred by exile. And yet together, they looked stronger than either had ever been alone. A bond had been forged, not by fear, not by lies, but by acceptance. And it was only the beginning of what they would build side by side. The days after the battle were quiet, but not empty. The ruins no longer felt like a grave, but like the first stone of something new. The human and the alien walked together through the broken streets, their steps slow but steady. Everywhere they went, the light of her wings touched the walls, chasing away the shadows that had haunted the city for centuries. Word began to spread, carried on whispers and frightened voices. The scavengers who survived spoke of a cursed one who revealed her true form. They spoke of a human who did not run, who stood by her side when others fled. The tale twisted through markets, taverns, and ships until it reached far beyond the desert world. At first, the galaxy mocked the story. A scarred human and a cursed alien. What power could they hold? But then came the details, the battle, the light, the roar that shook the sky. And slowly, mockery turned into wonder, and wonder into fear. The alien herself did not seek fear, nor did the human. They sought only to rebuild, to turn the ruins into a place of life again. Together, they cleared broken stones. Together, they lit fires against the cold nights. And with each passing day, the bond between them grew stronger. The human carried wood, built walls, guarded the edges of the city. The alien spread her wings across the ruins, lighting the streets with her fire. Children from wandering tribes came to watch, drawn not by fear, but by curiosity. And when they saw the scarred human walking beside the glowing alien, they no longer saw monsters. They saw something else, hope. The alien often looked at him with disbelief still in her eyes. "You never turned away," she whispered one night as they sat by the fire. He answered simply, his voice low, "Because you never gave me a reason to." She lowered her gaze, her claws tracing lines in the sand. "They will never stop calling me cursed," she said, "no matter what I do." The human smiled faintly, his scars soft in the firelight. "Then let them call you cursed," he said, "because I will call you true." Her eyes burned with emotion, her chest heavy with something she could barely name. In her long exile, she had carried only fear and shame. Now, because of him, she carried something different, pride, fragile but real. And it grew stronger with every moment he stayed by her side. Soon, their story became more than rumor. It became legend, told by traders and wanderers. The cursed one revealed her power, they said, and the human accepted her. Together, they turned ruin into light. Leaders of distant worlds heard these tales. Some trembled at the thought of her power. Others wondered what strength lay in the bond between a scarred human and a flawed alien. But those who truly listened understood the deeper truth. It was not power alone that made her rise. It was acceptance. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the ruins in gold, she stood beside the human on a high tower. Her wings folded around them both like a shield, her fire glowing soft. She whispered, almost to herself, "When you accepted me, I became more than I ever was." The human looked at her, his voice steady. "And when you revealed yourself, I learned what it means to stand without fear." The silence between them was not empty, but full of trust, full of meaning, full of a bond that no enemy could break. The galaxy might still call her cursed. The galaxy might still call him scarred. But together, they had made those words powerless. Together, they had forged a legend. And so, Under the rising alien sun, the scarred human and the once cursed alien walked forward, not as exile and wanderer, not as broken and flawed, but as partners. Their story would be told for generations, not as a tale of ruin, but as a story of acceptance. A story of how scars and flaws, when seen without fear, could become strength. A story that proved humanity's greatest power was not in weapons, not in war, but in compassion. And so the legend lived, not in the ruins of the past, but in the bond of two souls who refused to turn away.